No big secret, car and truck markets are collapsing and buyers are actually getting their vehicles repossessed. We have to talk about that because the other day I came across this couple that literally had to give up their house. Their car was getting repossessed and they had nowhere to go. They were even considering living on the street simply because the cost of living is so high. What are the key indicators? How in fact do we know that the market is going upside down and people can't afford to make the payments anymore? Well, there's still some key indicators. Let's take this from the top. Even with each of the third quarter's 3 months, we look at numbers that are down year over year. And yet the average pre-owned price at about $39,155 according to Auto Trader is still $9,000 more than it was back in 2021. Clearly people are still paying too much for these used vehicles. And a lot of people believe, you know what, even if I have a higher payment, if I can cut that down in terms of number of months, at least I won't have to pay it off for very long. Guess what? That's not the case either because banks have been a big part of the problem in the last couple of years because they've been extending loan terms so you can get loans now for 8 or 9 years and people just, as long as it fits their monthly budget, they feel that it's okay. But what they don't realize is they quickly find that they're underwater, more pad thrown in there and the dealers are getting crafty, adding widgets and parts and paint protection film, floor mats, ski racks, all these things that just pad up and bring that budget, your monthly budget up. But all you're getting is a bunch of fluff that's worth nothing once you turn and round and sell a car in the used car market. So unfortunately, people are actually now extending their loan terms, and that's part of the big problem here. According to the third quarter of 2023, the average income earning Canadian took about 33 weeks to pay off a used vehicle and as much as 55 weeks. So yes, over a year's worth of your salary, gross salary before taxes in the Canadian market to pay off a brand new vehicle. If you make $100,000 in a year, if you're in a $100,000 tax bracket, you're probably actually paying about $160,000 or $170,000 because that's before tax earnings scaled back to after tax that actually goes towards your car payment. People are just getting rooked into some huge car payments, holding them on the hook for a significant amount of time. We know trucks as well as another topic that has been really popular. It was very difficult to get trucks in 2020, 2021. Car lots were full of them, but they were missing chips. So supply chain was a big factor. They couldn't finish off the vehicles. They'd get them 98% ready, but they couldn't sell them to consumer. Or sometimes even with closed factories, it took longer to get the vehicle through production. So a lot of times people were just having to wait a long time and they were willing to pay a little bit more. So truck prices naturally went up because of supply chain bottlenecks as well as just that supply and demand factor kicking into high gear. And as a result, used truck prices just skyrocketed in the last couple of years. And as a result, the average pre-owned pickup truck is 7% year over year increase. As a matter of fact, they're now at an eye-watering average of $48,787 Canadian to get yourself a slightly used pickup truck. That's absolutely breathtaking when you consider a few short years ago that would get you a brand new fully decked out diesel truck. Never mind a used, clapped out, worn out, salted out pickup truck that you can find in today's Canadian market. Absolutely bananas. And then if you look at statistics, there are actually more expensive spots in some parts of the country than others. For example, in a lot of United States, you're going to have places like New York, Washington, Texas, and Florida are going to be on average a little higher than places, for example, like Montana and such. So for example, in Canada, British Columbia is the most expensive province by a long shot over even, for example, the Atlantic provinces, which you find over in Newfoundland, New Brunswick. Those are the lowest average areas, but basically British Columbia has an average used vehicle price of about $43,000 and change, which is up about 3% from 2022. And that's actually about $7,500 more than you're finding in the Atlantic provinces. Now, with that said, we all know that cost of living in British Columbia, or Vancouver specifically, is one of the highest cost places to live on the planet. When it costs you $3 million to live in a clapped out 50-year-old house, you know that you're in a place that costs a lot of money to live. And a lot of those people have that extra revenue and money, and so they're buying the higher end vehicles, and that of course edges up the average value of the used cars. But the fact remains is it's a pricey place out there, and there are pockets of really high priced locations within the country. So you probably ask yourself, how about new car prices, and how does that actually have an impact on used cars? Well, everybody knows that the rising costs of brand new vehicles. We just heard, for example, Ford is cranking up prices on some of their models. Ram, of all people, Stellantis should know better. They can't even sell a lot of their outgoing models for the 22, and they definitely have a lot of vehicles left on the lot for 23 model years, but even those guys are ramping up some of the prices as much as $14,000 on certain model trims. It's absolutely getting out of touch. So people see these $80, $90, $100,000 pickup trucks and they say, forget it, I either can't afford it or I won't buy that. And so instead they're deciding to go used. Well, what do you think that does? That drives up the quality or the pricing of the quality used vehicles. So you're constantly challenged with competing with that person next to you for that nice low mileage used product, and of course that averages up. So yes, higher new car prices definitely has an impact on used car prices, and it has a direct impact driving everything up. And so as a result, the average new car transaction price is over 50 grand in Canada, and it's been there for a while. Other reasons why people are starting to go underwater is the simple fact that new vehicle prices are going up. Yeah, how much? I just said Ram's going up, Ford's going up, GM's creeping their prices up on a lot of their products, and even some of the import brands, the Toyotas and the Nissans, those vehicle prices are creeping up as well. And it doesn't take very long to look around and see prices creeping up everywhere. SUVs, cars, trucks, they're all going out of control. And so Auto Trader is saying since the third quarter of 2021, the average new vehicle price is up 43%. But it's no wonder people can't afford to buy a new vehicle, or even used for that matter, unless you're looking at a winter beater for $8,000. And which, by the way, there was a time when $1,500 would get you a drivable winter beater, and now you can't even find a decent vehicle that rolls on its own power for under $7,000 or $8,000. And as well, like everything else with the cost of living and cost of rent going up, mortgage prices, housing prices going up, cost to buy a loaf of bread, and even McDonald's Big Mac garbage meals that are basically cardboard manufactured in a piece of cardboard, those have gone up. Have you seen the prices for a Big Mac meal lately? The bottom line is even car prices are going up, and as a result, people's wages also aren't going up, but they're having to take longer term loans for their vehicles, and more people are actually having to take out significant loans to buy a vehicle. As a matter of fact, I'll throw a number like this: 58% of transactions in Canada were actually financed this last year with terms of at least 84 months. People are almost mortgaging their new vehicles because they can't afford them outright and they're just too expensive. And then as a result of these higher vehicle prices going up, new and both used, what do you think's happening on the monthly payment when we already know that most people are borrowing money from the bank or from a lending institution to get that car, that new or used vehicle? Well, prices per monthly payments are going up. So they're extending their terms and that monthly payment is going up. Yes, in Canada, we're almost at $650 a month is the average. There's people that are paying $1,000, $1,200, $1,500. I even know people that are paying $2,000 a month for their car payment because they want that premium luxury vehicle. And maybe while they have the means, it doesn't mean that people aren't getting caught up in significantly high priced mortgage and finance rates for some of these houses and cars. And at that rate, yes, that's about 40% higher than it was before 2020 rolled around. Question is, have used car prices finally dropped? And we're starting to see it on the wholesale market. According to Canadian Black Book, the week actually ending December 2nd, pre-owned vehicles have gone down the most significant amount as they have in some significant amount of time. So any guesses on which vehicle type have gone up the most? Any guesses? And while you're probably thinking SUVs because they're very popular, maybe you're thinking minivans, but you're probably thinking pickup trucks because we know there's some big escalations in prices and they're so highly priced to begin with. Everybody's probably thinking that, but it's actually not. It's actually passenger cars. Since 2022, third quarter, we've actually seen about an 8% increase in the average price. And why is that? Well, the bottom line is more fuel efficiency. Obviously, people are now starting to looking for that hatchback, that small, cost-effective vehicle, that vehicle that's good on fuel. Everything that's slightly a little smaller, cheaper to run, cheaper to maintain, cheaper to fill up, is where people are starting to shift some of their attitudes towards, and it's driving the market to where people are now selecting smaller cars, even mid-sized cars over pickup trucks and larger SUVs. And so it's no secret, new cars are getting so expensive for so many people, and I've personally known people who have gone underwater, lost everything, their shirt, their shorts, and everything, because getting into a long-term loan on an expensive vehicle, their job didn't pan out, and now they're stuck with these huge payments they had to walk away from. Now they're in a world of hurt. They can't borrow money from the bank. They don't have a lot of money because they have no job. They can't eat. And you know how that story ends. It's a sad state. I've met several people like that already, and it just breaks my heart. And as a result, the price of a new passenger vehicle is up 52% this year when you compare it to last the same time. SUVs are up about 16% since last year, minivans about 20%, and I would never believe this, but statistically they say 7% we've seen escalation on pickup trucks from last year to this year. Yes, unfortunately, affordable vehicles like the small little Mitsubishi Mirage, the base little Honda Civics with a 4-cylinder manual gearbox, those simpler vehicles are harder to come by, and now these manufacturers would more rather dress them up with all the hybrid, the newer technology features, and now you're having to pay $40,000 or $50,000 for what was once a very entry-level vehicle. It just makes no sense. So you're probably then wondering, can used vehicles become less expensive? The long and short of it is, yes, only if new cars become more stable, the prices come down, and a lot of those manufacturers become more aggressive on the pricing of their brand new vehicles, will at that time be the time that we see used car prices start to creep back down. But until that time, where we're seeing manufacturers continually slowly creep up their pricing on their new vehicles, all we're going to see is this continued escalation on used car prices as well, and it just makes it harder and harder and harder for the average consumer to buy a car. And of course, with all of that said, definitely check that out. What is going on with Ford, GM, and Ram, and how they're actually responding to their trucks not selling. They're mad. Check it out right there. Hope to see each and every one on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.